Dear unknown friend, today we present a forecast for each of the signs of the zodiac and how they will be affected by Jupiter in 2025 and 2026.
Jupiter enters Cancer on June 10th, 2025. And today we will explore the influence it will have on each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. It is especially helpful to pay attention to the Jupiter cycle since it spends approximately a year in each sign of the zodiac and in many ways defines the experience of any given year. Jupiter gives insight into the area of life where we are most likely to see progress, change, benefit, good luck, and so this can help us set our priorities for the year. Pay careful attention to the precise degree of your ascendant, as this will affect the timing of what is being forecast. Jupiter, in its general esoteric light, has to do with the ray of love wisdom. In Vedic astrology, it is known as Guru. And the planet conveys to us the idea of uniting of heart and head, moral logic, conscience, and for this reason, growth in spiritual wisdom. In a more mundane interpretation, it shows areas of benefit and karmic merit. Dear unknown friends, pay special attention to your ascendant, or rising sign, as well as your sun sign and moon sign in this forecast. The rising sign is especially important, more so than the sun or moon, so far as this forecast goes. If you are not sure about where these are placed in your chart, or would like a consultation for your personal chart, or magical or spiritual practices to aid with the upcoming transits, including Bach flower essences recommended for certain transits for each sign and difficult aspects, please reach out to us at templeofthelivingfire.com. Now for the forecast. Aries often act before they think, and if their instincts and intuition are on track, this is no issue. However, there is a British sitcom where one of the characters embodies some of the negative sides of this, and after being told to think about his actions before he does them, he asked himself by way of an inner monologue, "Why would I think about my actions? I just do my actions. Thinking about my actions, what kind of life would that be?" Unquote. Okay, putting all humour aside, Aries should find much greater satisfaction with their home and domestic life in the coming months. Family could be an essential part of one's happiness, and if there were conditions in the past that were difficult, there is great possibility of healing those conditions, in part because now more than usual, you are able to see circumstances and dynamics in the family history from a higher and more objective perspective, a more forgiving perspective. Also, Aries is likely to feel an easing of subconscious influences and conditions of the past internally. You may now see yourself and your past in a new light, once again largely due to your ability to see yourself more objectively and from a higher place, recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, but without self-condemnation or judgment. This is an excellent time to buy a home or improve an existing one, to redecorate, renovate, and remodel. It is time to make your home your sanctuary. Ideally, this next 12-month period should be focused inwardly, with less regard for ambition, goals, career, and outward achievement. That said, this focus on who you are at a deeper level will bear fruit in terms of your more worldly ambitions or aspirations in about 6 years. This is the time of dealing with the roots of the tree, not the top and its branches. If we take care of the roots, the foundation of the psyche, the rest of the tree will be healthy. Aries is in many respects the most affected by the synodic cycle of Neptune and Saturn and the upcoming conjunction in late May. We will do another episode on this soon. But for now, keep in mind there is a little tension to be worked through in the early summer before the better parts of the Jupiter cycle to manifest. Mars will cause Aries to seek a greater freedom of authentic self-expression in the early part of this phase, and this is positive, but be patient. All in all, Aries is experiencing a rebirth, a new sense of awakening after many years of changes taking place beneath the threshold of consciousness. Uranus will enter the third house for Aries rising around the 8th of July. And is leaving a period where finances and issues with resources may have been quite chaotic. sudden gains and sudden losses. The spiritual influence of the last 7 years of the Uranus cycle was to teach you to be less attached to material concerns. Aries, as Uranus enters Gemini, you will find a great deal of increase in mental activity combined with intuitive insights. Many aha moments are coming in the next 7 years. Relationships with siblings could be strange and erratic, either because of your behavior or theirs. Be careful to avoid sudden destruction of your relationships with them. Reflect much on honoring your own individuality and the individuality of others, and you will prosper. Taurus the Bull, and I have many of you in my life, and you are reliable, steadfast people to be sure. Very agreeable people on the surface. Underneath is often another matter, as you are often very fixed in your ways and stubborn. Taurus, Jupiter brings new awareness and curiosity and new connections. Your mind is expanding under this influence. The third house is a house of synthesis. As some of you may be aware, 3, 6, and 9 are all numbers of synthesis. And these same numbers were the numbers Nikola Tesla saw as keys to the secrets of the universe. Synthesis, in this case, is most concerned with learning from varying points of view, exploring the opposing points of view, and arriving at a deeper, more profound truth. In short, Hegel's dialectic. This is an excellent period to learn from your experiences and the experiences of others, to get back to school, or simply take up research on your own. With Jupiter transiting your third house, Taurus, you are likely to gain insight and a kind of deeper understanding of the past experiences, particularly the last 2 years. In mundane astrology, we might expect to benefit from relationships with siblings, neighbors, co-workers. All these relationships can be expected to improve and provide an enhancement to your life. The synodic cycle of Neptune and Saturn requires a separate episode, but briefly, the effect on Taurus is deep in the unconscious, and it is good and timely to address the unconscious. Through keeping a dream journal, engaging in creative works, art, poetry, music, and focusing on the spiritual side of life. Doing so will bear fruit in the coming years. One will either feel confined and imprisoned with this influence, or they will take a slightly more monastic attitude temporarily and look inside. Uranus enters the second house for Taurus. This can be a period of sudden gains and sudden losses financially. Be careful with speculation. Your intuitive instincts may be quite good right now with money, but reflect a bit before you act, as impulsive choices and sudden changes in collective circumstances could also cause sudden losses. This period of time, the next 7 years, teaches you greater detachment from material concerns. Keep in mind, Taurus, the world is in an erratic condition with Uranus in Gemini. Gemini, the free-spirited, ever-curious, eloquent, yet sometimes anxious sign of the twins. Indeed, my own tribe. Gemini is always on its quest for greater knowledge and often never arriving at a final conclusion. I don't know and you don't know either, is often the attitude of Gemini. For truth is relative and highly complex. Gemini this year is one to reap what has been sown in terms of previous efforts, especially in terms of economics. You have greater capacity than usual to attract money, gain through investment and real estate. You are likely to expand the ways in which you make money, and if you have no plans to do so, maybe consider developing some. Your sense of values is likely to have matured, spiritually speaking, in recent years, and perhaps many questions have arisen around your own values and your own worth, and now there is a much clearer picture coming. This is what's important to me. This is my self-value and self-worth. And I'm not letting anyone else define this for me. Benefit can come through family and the home, an investment in real estate. You have a much clearer picture of yourself at this time, and a much greater sense of possibilities for yourself. The only danger is overindulgence and overspending. Be tempered without being excessively risk-averse. The Neptune and Saturn synodic cycle poses challenges to what has been said above in the first part summer 2025. The influence is largely focused for Gemini in the domain of friendships, groups, and collective endeavours. Gemini may be drawn to spiritual communities, group endeavors with high idealism, and this would be beneficial, as you are likely to feel more selfless and desire to serve and sacrifice in the coming years. Spiritual benefit comes through groups. Beware of over idealizing any group or collective of people, and be discerning about what sort of spiritual concepts are taken up. Uranus conjuncts your first house this year. Gemini, you have had the radical and revolutionary planet of Uranus in your 12th house the last many years, and this has likely created changes under the surface that you yourself are not even aware of yet. You may feel a vague sense that you are somehow very different than you were before. You may even feel that you are not quite sure who you are at the moment. You may have experienced a great many intuitive insights into cosmic truths over the last several years, taken interest in the metaphysical and occult studies. All of this has changed the very structure of your psyche. You now enter into a new phase of a new you being unveiled. The scaffolding is coming down, and you will seek greater freedom in your life. Caution needs to be exercised in your relationships and close partnerships. Yes, Gemini, be who you are authentically, but keep a balance with others. Life requires compromise no matter who you are. Cancer, the crab. This is the rebirth year. Think back 12 years and recall what took place then. And this will give you an idea of what to expect this year. Jupiter last year was in your 12th house if you are Cancer rising, and it may have seemed you had less access to this energy, its expansive, freeing influence, but this was only because the energy was acting on very deep levels of the psyche, the depths of the unconscious. It was causing changes below the surface. A seed was germinating, and as a consequence, the feeling at a personality level can be one of restriction, of feeling lost at sea, and expressing yourself and your individuality may have seemed difficult, and it's possible you felt a loss of sense of self. But take heart, Cancer. This is your year to be reborn with a new sense of direction and purpose. Relationships and partnerships of all kinds are likely to improve this year, and you are likely to have more magnetism and charisma than usual, and a sense of generosity that, combined with your already nurturing and caring nature, will earn you much goodwill in the future. Remember, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer the Crab. And by the way, 2026 is financially positive. One word of caution: with weight gain. Mind your diet. Now, the synodic cycle of Neptune and Saturn, like the other signs, creates a little tension with Jupiter this summer, but it does pass. The tension here can be work demands imposing themselves and interfering with a growing desire to be oneself authentically and truly. It may also simply be societal expectations that you feel at odds with, whatever your social role may be. This will balance itself out as the year goes on. Cancer can become unhappy with their career at this time unless it serves their highest ideals. If it doesn't, it's often possible to alter the existing situation or find a way to bring to it a higher purpose. Uranus will enter your 12th house, Cancer, and this will be a period of great change in your being. You are entering a time of deeper connection to the hidden side of reality. Dreams should be studied and reflected on. An interest in the metaphysical and mystical is highly beneficial now. Uranus is a great awakener. Leo the lion, being the second fire sign of the zodiac, benefits more than the other signs from the Neptune and Saturn cycle in Aries, but I will come back to that after talking about Jupiter. Jupiter will enter the 12th house for the Leo ascendant. Yet, as mentioned at the opening, what is said here is still somewhat true for the Leo sun and Leo moon. This is a time of inward movement of libido, internalizing, working with the unconscious, looking into ideas like Carl Jung's transcendent function. This is a spiritual time, and if the personality is too fixated on externals and external progress, much of the benefit of this transit is lost. However, if Leo will turn inward, keep a dream journal, take up spiritual practices and creativity for its own sake, or for the sake of self-exploration, this transit will bring about very positive changes that will not fully realize themselves until a few years later. But these will become profound changes. This is a time to retreat from outer life as much as is practical. Take a retreat and focus on spiritual and physical health. The synodic cycle of Neptune and Saturn for Leo, the issue is to avoid an overactive mind and dogmatic philosophical opinion, or preconceptions interfering with the process of integrating the unconscious. This is a time where what you think you know may be challenged, if not internally, then externally. That said, for Leo on the whole, this is very positive because the Leo ascendant, Moon and Sun, are trining the Neptune and Saturn conjunction in Aries. Thus, this is actually a profoundly spiritual time for Leo, and a great deal can be gained ultimately from metaphysical, mystical, occult, and religious study and practice. 2026 is even more positive for Leo if internal work is done now. Uranus enters Leo's 11th house, and here, Leo, you may find many new people coming into your sphere, and you may take interest in joining groups or participating in altruistic causes. The only downside is this can distract from other influences I've already mentioned. Avoid too much excessive social activity this coming year, as there is a need to be inward and to nurture yourself. Leo will find themselves confronted socially with many strange and alien beliefs they will have to navigate. Some of these people may challenge your own assumptions, and this can be mind expanding or uncomfortable. Yet this will expand your understanding if you can be tolerant and learn from each person that comes your way. All have a gift for you. Cancer the crab is very much the subconscious aspect of Leo. Underneath the surface, Leo is more attached to security, family, and tradition than what is obvious at the personality level, for they appear very self-sufficient and sovereign, as they are royalty. And they can be quite self-congratulating at times, as we see with our Leo ascendant president. So, Leo, another good action to take this year is focusing on the home and family. Virgo, the analytical, pragmatic, and hyper-detail-oriented sign of the zodiac. If you want the job done right, says Virgo, you have to do it yourself. Virgo must be cautious of the aspiration towards perfection, discouraging action. That is, do not let self-criticism inhibit you. Leo is very much in the unconscious. Learn from Leo that you are valuable by simply being. Jupiter enters the 11th house if you have the Virgo ascendant. This is a time of expansion in social relationships, friends, and group endeavors. You are likely to find your people, your tribe, and possibly work together for some greater good. This can be very illuminating as you encounter various personalities that add something to your own life and thinking. You are likely to find a place for your unique talents and likely to gain recognition and acceptance, as well as learn to recognize the unique talents and abilities over others you work with. This can be a very fulfilling and life-affirming transit for people with high ideals that are capable of setting their own ego aside. The synodic cycle of Neptune and Saturn adds tension through the 8th house for Virgo. This would have to do with the problem of the shadow. If in working with others, forming new friendships, one has not done sufficient work with the shadow, there can be power struggles over self-worth, recognition, questions as to whose role is more important, who leads, who follows, etc. It is the lessons of the 8th house that teach us how to merge and unite with others in a positive manner and have an exchange of energy, and to put our own ego aside, and learn to value differences and the uniqueness of the other. But as said for the other signs, the main time period for tension coming up in this manner is the early part of summer. Next year, it transforms into a very positive aspect. Uranus enters the 10th house for Virgo. Here, the emphasis is on one's material and spiritual aspirations. It is potentially excellent for career, in moderation. That is, it grants additional natural charisma, natural leadership ability, ingenuity, and opportunity. This must be balanced with willingness to follow procedure to some degree and get along well with others. Relationships with superiors at work can become strained. Keep everything in balance. So long as this takes place, given the sextile Uranus will have with Pluto, This may be the most advantageous time for Virgo in their lives as far as career is concerned. If there is excessive ego, however, one can find themselves at the very top and, like the tarot trump, the lightning struck tower, suddenly find themselves in a fall from grace. I trust Virgo's caution and humility will aid them in avoiding the latter possibility. Libra, the scales, the sign of constant weighing and indecisiveness. Libra has an eye for fairness and balance. But can they ever decide? Even discussing what restaurant they want to go to with others can turn into a summit. Jupiter now affects your career, ambitions, and aspirations and lends his grace and power to those goals. If you have long suffered a lack of recognition, if you have been like Rodney Dangerfield, who couldn't get any respect for your contributions, if you have had a lack of upward movement, you are likely to overcome those obstacles now. You will command greater authority than you have previously, and others will tend to give you the floor as long as you avoid arrogance or any sort of inflated feeling about yourself. This is a year to reach for the heights in the outer world and in society or at work. Whatever hard work you've put into your life the last 4 years is likely to bear fruit now. The Neptune-Saturn cycle for Libra creates tension between the 10th house and 7th, and that would be the demands of partnership versus the demands of career and societal role. As with the other signs, this will pass. On the whole, this is a very positive period for Libra. 2.5 years or so, where partnership is very much the focus, it may be possible to find a very ideal partnership as long as one does not get too crazy about expectations. The danger of Neptune in the 7th house of partnership is always an inability to see things as they are and perhaps project too much on the partner. One may over-idealize the partner, in which case one is in love with a romantic vision of a person, not the person as they are. Remember, we can find a man or woman who can carry the projection of the anima or animus. If they did not to some degree, there would be no attraction beyond physical attraction, but no human being can live up to the fantasy image of an archetype. Any relationship manifesting now is very karmic. That said, with Saturn in conjunction, this adds some sobriety to the influence of Neptune and therefore creates a much more balanced tendency. So much luck in love, Libra. Uranus for Libra acts with greater ease than for some of the other signs, as Uranus is the esoteric ruler of Libra and its position in Gemini trines Libra's sun, moon, and ascendant. Uranus enters the 9th house for Libra, and this is a revolution in your spiritual, religious, and philosophical outlook. Travel is very beneficial, and you're likely to meet many people in the coming years that cause a radical shift in outlook, and it's likely you find an attraction to unorthodox religious and spiritual teachings. Higher education can be of great benefit as long as it is more or less a classical education. Everything taking place over the next 7 years is preparing you for a more significant role in society or in your career. There can be difficulty with children in the next many years due to the influence of Pluto. So long as you work on withdrawing projections and respecting the individuality of your children, this can be transformative for you in these relationships. Every family needs a Scorpio, as they point out the darkest aspects of life, people, just about any situation, and are likely to take to conspiracy theories. They are frequently right about things that may seem on the surface implausible, yet don't take well to being wrong. Scorpio experiences the Jupiter entrance into Cancer the Crab very positively, seeing as Jupiter will make a trine aspect to the Scorpio ascendant, moon, and sun. This is an excellent time for Scorpio to expand their minds through higher education, study of religion, philosophy, metaphysics. They may meet a guru or get involved in a spiritual tradition. This is a 9th house transit for those with Scorpio rising. And once again, 9 is a number of synthesis, and it is threefold synthesis: spiritual, psychic, and material. This transit helps achieve a mature wisdom through integrating diverse opinions, views, experiences, and arriving at a synthesis of antinomies or binaries. Scorpio. This integration is the precursor to greater achievement and recognition in the year 2026. For the moment, this is largely an internal process, symbolized in the tarot by the Hermit. The Neptune Saturn conjunction this year affects the Jupiter entrance into Cancer in the following manner for Scorpio. The two planets mentioned are in the sixth house for the Scorpio ascendant, and this can mean the daily grind, work, or health issues interfere somewhat with the Jupiter influence. Scorpio is likely seeking the idea of right livelihood, and this is more profoundly so with the majority of Generation X because of Chiron's placement in Aries. Scorpio must take care of their health at this time and be on guard against mystery illnesses, that is, more correctly, difficult to diagnose illnesses like Lyme disease, Epstein-Barr virus, and similar. You will do well, Scorpio, at present, to keep a very clean diet and take advantage of metaphysical modalities or vibrational medicines like homeopathy, crystal healing, Reiki, and things of this nature, as you will likely respond to these energies more than usual. In fact, you are likely to be unusually sensitive to subtle energies and should keep a vigilant practice of spiritual hygiene. Learn the wisdom of Virgo here. By the way, this is also an excellent time for you to enter into the study and practice of vibrational healing modalities yourself. Uranus creates a great deal of activity in the eighth house for Scorpio and may make Scorpio unusually attractive, and this may attract a very eccentric partner. The psychic faculties are stimulated, as is intense interest in what is underneath the surface of things, the mysteries of death and reincarnation, and perhaps memories of previous life experiences will be surfacing. Scorpio will be learning new ways of merging with others and may find unexpected financial gains through inheritance or beneficial partnerships. What was said earlier with regards to vibrational medicine is augmented because of this transit of Uranus. Moving on to Sagittarius, this year Jupiter in Cancer can bring out hidden gifts and talents for the Sagittarian, and the focus of the transit is on healing, work with the shadow, sexuality, and the quest for greater inner union, the integration of the anima and animus. Jupiter's presence here will aid and expand self-knowledge and psychic and occult gifts. You will see more deeply into yourself and others than you have before. A strong interest in all that is hidden and beneath the surface is brought about by Jupiter, and intuition is likely to be especially on track. Similar to what was said about Scorpio, but for different reasons, this is a good time to understand healing on a spiritual, psychic, and material level, as the harmonization of diverse forces and accordance of rhythms. On a strictly material level, much the same that was true of Gemini is true here. Sagittarius may benefit financially this year, often through legacy, inheritance, or lucky windfalls. Mergers and benefits through partners and joint finances are a theme and will manifest positively. Marriage is also a strong possibility. As for the Neptune and Saturn square to Jupiter and the effects on the Sagittarian, the urge for self-expression will be greatly enhanced. Yet because of Neptune, there is also an increase in selflessness in this regard, which would aid the eighth house process mentioned above. This is a very creative influence, especially helpful for quasi-mediumistic aspirations like acting. It will add high idealism, imagination, and magic to any creative work. The influence of Saturn could create a tension between the workings of the eighth house, union with another, and one's own self-expression. Yet its influence with Neptune aids bringing Neptunian vision into concrete reality. The influence here can also create illusionary love affairs that are excessively romantically idealized. Have fun with these, but do not commit hastily. The effect of transiting Uranus is a bit more of a challenge for Sagittarius, as you may find yourself having many encounters with others that may turn unpleasant without much warning. In other cases, unusual encounters may lead to very synchronistic and illuminating experiences. Relationships of all kinds are challenging, especially when Uranus comes into exact opposition to the Sagittarian ascendant. The timing of this transit's most powerful phase will vary from person to person depending on the exact degree of the rising sign. Sagittarius can have issues in marriage at this time or significant partnerships, be they personal or business. And this does not necessarily mean a destruction of these relationships, so long as Sagittarius can give the partner or spouse new freedom and a redefining of the dynamics of the relationship. If there is great rigidity, these relationships will collapse, and usually quite suddenly. If there is sufficient introspection and flexibility, honoring the unique individuality of those you are in relationship with, this transit will enhance your life and theirs significantly. Capricorn. Jupiter enters your house of partnership, and this can be business. It can be a relationship of any sort. And this is an extremely beneficial influence where you will gain in relationships with others. In all affairs of legality, this is a fortunate placement in transit, and one gains from working in partnership. Marriage is possible, and the most important period for this meeting of a new partner or going further with an existing one will be around Christmas time. Pay attention, Capricorn, to members of the tribe of Cancer in your life. They may have a gift for you and have your best interests at heart. This is a time of not relying solely on yourself, which is your tendency. You can trust partnerships at this time. The Neptune and Saturn entrance into Aries affects the sign of the Goat in the following manner. More emphasis on the home, roots of the psyche and family. Capricorn experiences this transit in part as a deepening of awareness, increasing empathic ability, and a potentially greater connection to the subtle and spiritual planes of life. Capricorns may feel somewhat ungrounded at this time, and your perception of your family members may be greatly altered as you are going through many changes in your own inner landscape. Communication and a feeling of mutual understanding with parents may be difficult at this time. Beware of plumbing issues and the security of your home, both physically and energetically over the next many years. This applies not just to your home, but your own inner being, which your home is a reflection of. There is a little difficulty with this transit, as Capricorn is in many respects more at home, at work, than at home. And the influence of Neptune during the next 14 years forces you to put less emphasis on your career and social role, and much more emphasis on your inner life. Capricorns are likely to feel a strong desire to make their home a source of peace and protection from the harsh realities of the outside world, and this is a very positive response to the transit. Saturn in this house for the next 2.5 years forces you to try to look at things as they actually are. Capricorn, you can now achieve with this influence a new level of psychological maturity, where you withdraw the archetypal projection on the parental figures and begin to see the actual human beings hiding behind them. This will be liberating and allow a more real relationship with them. You are inclined to feel more forgiving at this time with your family. This is especially true for Generation X. Now, it is also good to beautify the home under these influences, make it a sanctuary, use the vivid imagination that is augmented by Neptune, and make your space a sacred space. This will prepare you for the future when your creative self-expression blossoms. Dreams can be very intense over the next 14 years. Uranus and its effect on the sign of the Goat. In your work life, there may be a great deal of change coming, and a need and/or an interest in developing new skills. This transit can upset the employment situation or bring on sudden health issues. On the positive side, the last 7 years have brought many internal changes to your tribe, so you have what you need to succeed and thrive if you can embrace change and innovation. This means perhaps learning new cutting-edge skills for your work and developing new and unconventional approaches to your health regimen. For Aquarius, Jupiter entering Cancer will give great help in both health and work relationships. One may meet a mentor who has your best interests at heart. Additionally, the family background, and the father especially, may have much to offer you in terms of your betterment and developing skills. You are now likely to see more recognition of your contributions to the workplace and feel generally more valued and comfortable there. You may find yourself also in a position of mentoring others and nurturing the development of their talents and skills. If your work environment is unhappy, this is a great year to make a change. This is a good time to improve health or enter into the field of nursing or similar. You should nurture yourself and others through a healthy diet and clean living. Neptune and Saturn enter your third house, and this can be a time of mental confusion and sorting out what's what. Yet this can also be very mentally intuitive, very creative, and it is good to study the arts, write poetry, and take up mystical or spiritual studies. Your mind is expanding over the next many years, but in a more right brained way. Saturn will help you stay grounded, but use discernment about what sort of spiritual concepts you are attracted to. This is a period of many new friendships and acquaintances that will enrich your own experience of life. Uranus and its effect on your sign. This can be a very creative time for you, Aquarius, where you can find what really makes you, you, and put your own stamp on any creative endeavour. If you're having a child now, they may have a quality of genius and precociousness, and your own creative genius will be especially profound the next many years. Love affairs can be abundant, starting and ending suddenly, and you're likely to be attracted to people very different from yourself, having a different background or socio-economic status. Late 2026 and early 2027 is promising for a serious partnership. Pisces, a sign that can be very compassionate and self-sacrificing, or have an inability to deal with the world and its realities. Jupiter is a co-ruler of the sign Pisces, and as it enters its exaltation in Cancer, this is a very good trine dynamic. All three water signs benefit from Jupiter this year, more so than the other signs of the zodiac for this reason. For Pisces, Jupiter most keenly affects the fifth house, and this will grant you plenty of creative ideas and a newfound self-confidence. You will have big, bold ideas and see many new possibilities for yourself. You will become less self-limiting. You may have children at this time, but if not, you will have many children. In terms of your creations, this is a time for you to reflect on what makes you unique, what your gifts are, and how to express them. Equally, this is a pleasant time for romance, friendships, and expressing love. You are likely to feel more generous with others in terms of affection, and you have more charisma than usual. Romance will be especially important in July of 2025 and February 2026. Neptune and Saturn affect the tribe of Pisces through the second house. You must be careful of fraud and deception around money. You must equally be cautious of deceiving yourself about your financial condition. Avoid being overly generous, as you will feel very empathetic towards others and very selfless about money in the coming years. We are not saying don't be charitable, as this movement of Neptune deeply encourages such compassion, but be discerning about your limits. That is what Saturn's presence with Neptune says to you. This is a time, taking many years in fact, to be less attached to materiality. A sublimation is taking place in regards to your attitudes towards money, resources, and a spiritualization of your personal values. This does not mean enormous loss of material possessions, only a shift in consciousness about them. Uranus affects your tribe in the area of family, home, and the subconscious. You may see a sudden need to change residence or sudden issues with neighbours, both good and bad. Conflict with siblings may be an issue. You must be on guard against emotional impulsiveness, and you may experience periods of emotional instability. This is because you are being altered on a very deep psychological level, and any rigid structures, habits, and attitudes are likely to change over time. While this experience is sometimes uncomfortable, if handled in a balanced way, this will liberate you from the effects of the past in the long term. Seeking counseling on issues of family is especially beneficial at this time. You will be undoing much of the habit mind and find yourself being freed from many tendencies so subconscious that you didn't even know you were enslaved to them to start with. Pisces, The work you're doing now creates conditions in a couple of years where a more serious partnership may form and gives you a better vision of your long term objectives and aspirations, whatever they may be.
Thank you, dear unknown friends. We will consider doing a more in-depth video on the outer planet transits for each sign should there be sufficient interest. Please like, subscribe, share this video, and make a request in the comments if you have something you would like for us to address in the next astrological forecast. Keep in mind, when looking at your own chart, all planets in early degrees of signs, or the very late degrees, are powerfully affected by the new transits of Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto this summer. Have a blessed week. Namaste. The philosophers of the living fire.